Welcome to Cited. I'm your host, Ra Ali, and trust me, today we are going to get knee deep into it. My guest today is no stranger to the mic, no stranger to viral conversations, and no stranger to shaking the table. You know her as the former co-host of the hit online show tonight's Conversation, where she helped bring raw, unfiltered discussions straight to the people. But behind the scenes, the conversations were even more heated. The power struggles were real, and the fallout, well, let's just say it was anything but pretty. Today, Randi Rossario and Rico, two former co-hosts of tonight's Conversation, are here to set the record straight. What really went down with the show's creator, Ace Metaphor? And what's behind the abuse allegations? How did friendships turn into betrayals and hush money offers? Is there more to the story than the audience ever knew? We're diving into it all.
Okay. You knew that we weren't leaving it on the set. You knew that somebody was in their feelings about something that was said about whatever. It was always separation and divisiveness. He has an issue with triangulating people. And when he does that, it creates a hostile space. So he'll do something like go tell 𝐬𝐿 or try to plant seeds with 𝐬𝐿 that I'm not her friend.
Okay.
Like, oh, she's jealous of you. Yeah,
Okay.
she kind of said she didn't really be on shows with you.
But before we go any further, I want to welcome and introduce Rico. Thank you for joining us, Rico. All right.
That's good, my boy.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
So
for
Rico,
having me.
yes, absolutely. Thank you for being here. You were one of the original co-hosts on tonight's Conversation. Tell us how you first got involved in the show.
You mean help create it?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
There's no secret here. We all kind of know. If you know, you know, I guess. So initially, Ace had reached out to me, and I was he had like a show where it was just interactions with the actual card game.
Okay.
So he reached out to me and he booked me for that. And then I went there. I did that. And then when I came back about a month later, I've been podcasting since 2018. Our show Ate at the Table has went viral numerous times.
Oh, okay.
He watched it. He was, an avid watcher of that. And so he was asking me questions like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a podcast going. How do you guys do it over there? Just trying to get insight.
Got it.
So what ended up happening was it became a weekly thing, like a weekly call.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Kind of what, picking your brain?
yeah,
Okay.
but he told me, I want you a part of it. I want you to help me direct it. This is something that's new for me.
Was there any incentives for you?
Of course.
Monetary? Okay.
Of course. So not equity, but
Okay.
there was definitely a good number.
Okay.
So when Randi was talking about the heaven and the hell parts of the podcast that we were filming in, I was on a panel for the hell, but I was directing the heaven.
This is crazy.
It's
Okay.
crazy, right?
Okay.
The devil is a lie. But so I was assisting in that regard. And then that was not just that season, that was also sprinkled into the second season. But by the time the third season came, I was just strictly on the panel. But me and Ace were having a lot of issues because I would see how he was doing everything and how he was treating people. And the gossip and the whole getting kind of what Randi was just speaking
So
about.
you two were in agreement about Ace.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a big argument with him
Okay. About?
about this whole thing. This was after season 2.
So to be fair,
Yeah.
Rico and I he left as soon as we started getting along. And that's what people didn't get to see because literally the day they had their incident, when we weren't recording, we would all go upstairs and go outside. Rico and I were outside on the deck talking, and we're like, yo, we gonna stay in control of our emotions and our attitude. We're not gonna let this nigga win. Because that's literally how the show took off. The show took off with us not staying, us allowing somebody to frustrate us for real. The clips were the clips of him and I arguing, the clips of 𝐬𝐿 and TC going at it. Those were the clips that went viral.
Got it.
But we were like, hey, we're not giving him that no more. We're gonna do better.
Got it.
And
So
then-
do you think that maybe there was a possibility that the reason he wanted the conflict to go on between you guys so that it could be more interesting on camera?
I think that he doesn't know how to promote healthy behavior and healthy conversation and dialogue. And that's what I was trying to tell him. I said, you're not protecting everybody's brand at home. It's not like you got a collective of people who, didn't have a brand or a fan base. You got people who have fan bases that they've earned and created on their own accord. And now you're going to include them, but now you can't just put them in the light that you decide constantly. You have to delegate to their fans and their audiences as well. And I personally believe one of the reasons why he and I stopped really working together was because 𝐾𝐸 and Randi always had his back. But at some point, me, 𝐾𝐸, and Randi started becoming friends. So we started actually listening to each other rather than going back and forth at each other.
Okay.
And it actually got to a point, I think on the last season that I was on, that Randi went at him one time and 𝐾𝐸 went on him on a different episode and I went on him. So it was like now everybody was now kind of going at him.
Okay, and that's clearly not something that he would want as in the position that he's in. He wants to be able to kind of puppet master everything. But I didn't get an opportunity to ask you this. I want to know this. What was your initial impression of Ace Metaphor, right? That's one part of my question. And the second part is because you were on another podcast, 8 at the Table, that show as well as successful. What was his response to that, to you having your own popularity as well?
Well, okay. So the whole heaven and hell thing, I told him to go ahead and look for a aesthetic that people are going to have a hard time to replicate, which was a beautiful setup if you watch the first season, in my opinion.
Which show is this? Because you said heaven and hell. We need
Tonight's Conversations.
Okay. Was that hell?
It was called Relationships 101. The Heaven show was called Relationships 101.
Okay.
And then our show was called Uncut and Unfiltered or something like that.
Something like that. Or yeah, something like that.
So you said create an aesthetic. But wait, you didn't answer the question about what was your initial...
No, okay, so I'm going to get
Yeah,
to
tell me that.
So what happened was my first initial now, I'm going before the podcast. Well, I already knew that he had a problem with men. And I didn't know if it was somebody in his family or somebody who's did something, but any man who's lashing out on men constantly and using a woman who is a victim to align with and then monetize off of is somebody who has some deeply rooted issues with men.
Okay.
I mean, I even said this to him, to his face.
Okay.
That episode never aired, but
It sure did. Man, that was a good episode.
the episode
Really?
didn't air. Yeah. But I already knew that. I mean, and everybody knew, like, I was more so like the pro alpha red pill type of guy. So they were saying, why am I even going to his podcast when he's, his fan base is entirely different? And my whole thing was, it doesn't matter about being in agreement. It just matters about perspective. Some people might start to come my way and some of my people might start to go his way. Whatever's going to work for the people, the conversation still has to happen.
Right.
I'm not tied to, capitalizing off of my fans monetary wise. I'm tied to building them. If it comes from a point where they realize I'm right or wrong and that's in their benefit, then so be it. So that's why I actually went on that podcast, and that's why, and that was my initial impression. But I knew my impression started to really start to be right when I told him to be himself, but he couldn't, right? He couldn't, because in our first podcast, circling back, it was entirely different dynamic. When we came back for season 2, it was the same exact setup as the show that I'm on at 8 at the Table. The chairs, the signs, the rug, everything was the same.
Really?
Yes, and I was like, and I asked him, I said, why would you do that? You're going to cause conflict with me at home. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I just had to switch it up and I had to cut down. I was like, all right, whatever. I was already there, mind you.
This is the other show that you were on.
No, this is Tonight's Conversations.
So which set is it that he duplicated?
8 at the Table.
Which is a completely different show that he has nothing to do with.
It's the show I was on and still am on.
Okay.
So.
And so the set was the same?
Yeah, like I would say about 75% identical.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you asked him about it and he said he just needed to change things up.
Yeah, and that's again, right? I realized he could never be himself, which I also said in that same episode. You play the fence, you try to be a mediator because you're scared to give your opinion because you're insecure about your opinion, right? And these are things that I've said. This is not,
Yeah.
nothing. I don't do the gossip, which he used to try to call me and gossip, and it never went far, and that's what I had a big argument with him, and I told him like everything that's happening right now, and his Natasha, his assistant, was on the call. I said this is gonna happen, and
So you foresaw that there was going to be a big blow up.
yep,
You knew that this was coming.
We all knew it. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason why I didn't speak out too. I knew that if I was gone and I brought a certain level of peace because I'm allowing this person to come vent to me and give them advice, I'm allowing that girl to come vent to me and give advice, I'm helping her keep her peace. I know for a fact that once I'm gone, it's a certain level of peace that's gone. There's a certain synergy that's gone. It was going to fall apart within. I honestly gave it a year. It took 4 months.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
and I said, well, and that was the thing. My thing is this: sometimes, and I hate being right because when I'm right, that means I tried to warn you about something that you didn't listen. And I just sat back and I watched because Ace and Heart has a good heart, but he's a terrible person. Like he has a good heart, but he's a terrible person. So I watched it and I saw
I
it
don't know how that could be.
because it's like you. It's like you intend to be well, but then other things and influences take control of your
Got
intentions.
it. So you believe that his intentions are in the right place, but who his heart actually is, who he truly is what comes to the surface.
I would actually say
The opposite?
his heart is in the right place, but his ego isn't.
Yes.
I would say that's his conflict. And that's just my own. I'm not a
Okay, I
therapist or it's
understand.
like
Yeah.
But I seen it get in a way of a lot of people, including Keita. You know what I'm saying? So even my situation with him, it was the weirdest thing. He actually costed me money, which was my last straw with him twice.
Oh, okay. Tell us about that, because it seems that the money conversation is is a lot with this show and the cast. So
it is.
What happened with the finances? Tell us, just give it to us raw. What happened with the money?
Well, with me personally, everybody has their own situation, which is different or maybe even the same. But after the second season, he wanted to give me my own show on the app. Right.
Okay.
So I was going to have my own show. So I told him, I was like, all right, cool. I'll go ahead and I'll pay for everything. So I got a whole new office space. I paid for the decor. I paid for the computers, the cameras, the mics, and y'all know it's not cheap, right? And so I put together a pilot. He just never responded. Yep. I was like, all right. And then I was like, well, you know what? I didn't have a pitch deck. Let me get a pitch deck. So I put together a pitch deck. Never responded. So I was like, all right, fine.
Wow.
And then a few weeks to a month later, he calls me back like, hey, let's go ahead and do season 3. And I was like, what? Like, you just act like it never happened. So that's the time where I went there that July, and I was like, I actually went there with.
Let's argue.
I didn't want to argue, actually. I went to some, right? But Randi did talk me off the ledge, and that was the first time. And then the last time was we were doing shows. We had just came back from the DC, Philly, New York tour, and he asked me to do some other shows. And
so whatever happened with this office space and the equipment?
Oh, I just was stuck with it. I mean, I actually ended up utilizing it, and a year and a half later, I have my Hundo show, which is great now, which is doing really good numbers. So,
okay,
I was able to pivot, but I didn't make it a loss. You know what I'm saying? But to be honest, it took me like a year to even learn the camera, which is why it took so long for me to even pivot. So.
Do you remember how upset he was when I started the Randi Rossario show?
Yes, I do. I was right there.
He was so angry. Like whenever and be clear, like I've told you before, I have been in media much longer than this podcast. Mm-hmm. So me pivoting to doing my show is me taking my radio show to camera. It's not anything more than that.
That's exactly what that is. Okay.
He literally talked about me to anybody that would listen in regards to how my show was crappy, how I should have asked for assistance. I can't believe she would do that. But when we were asking for help, like Rico's situation where he might approach us, and then when we actually execute things, he will literally ignore you or look at you like you're stupid. that was what part of the issue with the whole radio silence when he disconnected from me this time back in August 2024. We were in conversations about Let's Rant About It living on the Tonight's Conversation app. At the beginning of our final meeting that we all had, it started with, how can Let's Rant About It and Tonight's Conversation coexist? Because they know the force Let's Rant About It is. They know it. For you to go radio silent after having a conversation about distribution and joining a tour and then helping with a tour after that, because my whole thing was, I just don't want to work with you directly on stage. I'm never going to take your perks from you. You're a marketing guru. You understand that. You understand production. I'm never going to discredit somebody from what they're good at. You're amazing at that. So how about this? How about you handle the marketing and the production for my show, and I'll let my show live on your app? Mm-hmm. That's had been the conversation since he threw a temper tantrum and all that, saying he felt left out. Mm-hmm. Then you just go radio silent. So now the show is living on YouTube, and it's making very, very good money, so it is what it is. But that's what he does. That's a pattern. He will tell you he's going to work with you. He will gas you up. He will pretend like he's going to do certain things, but the execution never happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can tell me, you guys definitely clarified a lot for me. Where are things right now, and what is all of the conversation about the payouts and silencing people? Where is Randi Rossario, Rico, the tonight's conversation, and Ace Metaphor as we stand right now?
So what I can say without telling anybody else's story, the conversation of someone trying to extort him is a lie.
Oh, really?
A full-blown lie. That man reached out to me and another castmate because as we started telling our story and talking, specifically as she started to, more people that had been allegedly abused by him came out. Mm-hmm. This time it wasn't financial abuse, though. This time it was murky waters and some stuff that he did in the past, allegedly to his first wife, his former wife.
And I want to reiterate that it's allegedly that we are discussing the accusations and that we do not know, anything personally, and this is alleged.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I do got some hell of a screenshots for you, but
okay.
yeah,
let's share it. We can share it.
We'll leave it there.
We can talk about it.
So after he realized that we were coming to, we were getting close to his secrets in regards to things that happened with his first wife, that's when we got calls in regards to wanting money and wanting to give us money. He called it a ceasefire. He said, how about I pay you guys $25,000 each for a ceasefire? I said, that's not going to work. I need at least half of what my contract was going to be, period. I didn't say anything. Actually, my husband did because I don't handle business with that man. I had my husband call him. Beyond the ceasefire money that he was trying to give me and my former castmate, he also wanted us to go on Iyanla Vanzant, Fix My Life, with the core group. He wanted to pay for that as well. He also asked if I would come back on tour and offered a number there as well. Lastly, he asked for me to do a pop-up with him, like a pop-up at the next stop in Detroit for a tour. The very next day, he gets online making posts of a partial recording that he took of Keita yelling at him, but not the full conversation where he's egging her on and calling her at midnight at 1:00 in the morning and making offers. This is stuff that he did. I've heard the full conversations because they're all recorded.
Okay. And what about you? Where do you stand?
Well, I haven't spoken to that man in maybe 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah. From the last show. Well, the last tour that we were supposed to do, he made me, I had already had a booking that I had to cancel for his show that he just never sent the contract after we agreed verbally everything. So
and what was your investment, your financial investment in this stuff?
In what?
In your own equipment.
Oh, the equipment was at least $10,000
of your own money.
Yeah,
you never recouped that.
I mean,
back
if you
from
think
him.
about it, the camera's like $3,000-4,000, the lens is $1,000, the computer's another $2,000, the space was like $900 a month, and I was locked into that for 12 months. I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot, and then
you didn't recoup any of that from him.
No, never.
What about those of us that order stuff for our merch tables? So I'm in the same position as Rico in regards to, you know, being told you're going to be sent a contract and things like that, and then it just doesn't happen. Myself and a former castmate actually is in like $30,000 worth of debt because of the merch table situation. Merch table, when we go on tour, each cast member gets their own merch table, or we sell our own personal items. I usually sell like my soap and my card games. I would never sell my card games at their podcast though, because I never wanted to start tension. So I would usually do my soaps and my journals and my books. And they, some people have invested into merch and were promised contracts and were not given those contracts. So now they're just sitting on merch.
So let me ask you this. Because this is a lot.
It's a lot.
This is a lot. There's so many moving parts. There's a lot to carry. This really could truly affect someone's life, their lifestyle.
Their health.
Has this experience done, and how has it affected your mental health and even your confidence as creators? Like, if you guys can both give me that, that'll be.
I'll start with, I have epilepsy.
Okay.
I have not had thank you. I have not had an epileptic incident since leaving that platform. I have not had migraines since leaving that platform. If you know me personally, or you follow me and you follow this journey, you know exactly how long I suffered through that and with that. And it mostly flared there. Since leaving, I have not had that. I had to sit with myself for 7 months so I did not crash out, all while still raising my kids, all while still showing up in my marriage, still showing up for my parents. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting to keep a mask on. It was exhausting to feel like you're not enough. Like you're not enough. Like to have somebody make you feel like you this big. Like I had to sit with myself. I felt like I was in a cocoon for the past 7 months.
Your hands are shaking.
Because I'm like, it's a lot to relive it. And I think that's what people don't understand. Like when everything started happening a couple of weeks ago publicly, it was like for the last 7 months, I've just been waiting for the other shoe to drop, not knowing what angle it was going to be, how they was going to come at me, why they was coming at me, nothing. So when it finally happened, it's just like, it literally what you just said, my hands are shaking. It throws off my nervous system because of the energy that my body and my mind goes to even thinking about that place, even thinking about that man seriously. Like the way he treats people and the way he schemes against people, like it needs to be studied because, sir, you are sick.
Do you agree with that? What is your take on it?
I mean, again, I saw all of it happening. You know, whenever I'm in a situation, I always zoom out and I look at everything moving. So when I saw it happening, that's why I confronted him. That's why I had, you know, some type of hostility towards him. And the worst part is he paid all of us well at those points in times. You know what I'm saying? So for me, if I were to say, hey, Randy, this is what I see is going on that early, another reason why I didn't say anything, because I could look like a hater, right? So I had to just let it play out. But I knew everybody individually would go through their own version of some type of trauma within this podcast.
Okay.
If you look at the initial core, everybody but one person is gone.
Yep.
Everybody.
Really?
Yes.
So as it stands, currently assembled, there is only one original cast member on the show.
Yep, and he talks about him like a dog too.
Okay.
So
okay,
you know, and that's the thing. So I seen it all happening, unfolding. I was affected by it. Confidence wise, it actually boosted my confidence because I got to test it out on somebody else's payroll, right? So I knew what I knew.
Okay,
right?
we're keeping it real.
But,
so if you could, if Ace was here right now, sitting in front of you, right? What would you say to him about taking accountability for his role in all of this? What would you say?
I think that would be a wasted breath about teaching him about taking accountability. I would rather just pray to God in that moment for him because I would rather not waste my time and my breath again. As Rico said, he's been somebody that tried to help. I've been somebody that tried to help. It's for honestly, for a lot of us that understand business, which is only like 2 or 3 of us, we help beyond being talent. Ace only started recording the podcast on tour because we told him to. Topics we came up with. Formatting we came up with. Yep. I can't tell that man anything more than what I've already told him. So all I could possibly do for him to help him is pray for him.
Yeah. And in all honesty, when I seen Keita and Trip both leaving at the same time, it was like back to back on my timeline. I actually called Mike, his close friend, and I said, listen, I don't know what's going on because I'm not in it, but you got to help him, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to see anybody lose, you know? And honestly, like, the more competition that's there, the better I could be, like, you know, I can compete with. So, you know, I told him, like, yo, you got to help him. I don't know, and this is before Keita, you know, started telling her story online. I don't think Trip has even told his story. And if he did, I haven't seen it. But I'm like, if you really think about it, Richie's gone, I'm gone, Randy's gone, Keita's gone. And now that was the initial core. Now you have Trip gone, you know. I'm like, the turnover rate is too high. And I realized that he thinks it's okay because in his apology post, he said this is the SNL of podcasts, basically talking about the turnover. But I'm like, you're not SNL. And replacing one person is different than replacing 5, especially when 5 were the ones that built the whole show. Right?
Is there any way, and I know the viewers are probably thinking this as well, is there anything that would make you consider going back?
He offered me good money to go back. No.
What about you?
Equity. I'll go back for some equity. I'll go back for some equity.
That's what made him mad. Listen, you want to talk about when he really started to hate me? When I started teaching everybody about equity. I didn't teach Rico because Rico already understood business. But when I started talking to Keita and the other core members about how much money he was genuinely making, I said, you have to think about it. He's making, let's say it's $10 a month for the app. And you keep telling us, you keep coming to brag to us about how many people on your app. Oh, we got 10,000 subscribers. We got 15,000 subscribers. I'm just doing the numbers in my head at that point. Oh, that's an extra $150 a month. Oh, that's an extra this a month. So I'm saying it.
It ain't free to start an app.
It's not.
So even if he's making that, it costs over $500,000 to start an app.
Absolutely. But once we're 1 year in and you're telling me about how you have all these subscribers on this app, and I know you're monetizing Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, bro, you're easily clearing. And when you look at these numbers on what the reach is, you're easily clearing at least $10K a month off of one social media platform alone, and at least $150 a month, $150K. When I say $150, I mean $150,000 a month off of app subscribers. You could keep everybody happy. Give everybody 3% of that, 5% of that. Your core 5 people. That's how you keep your team. I'll tell you,
I have a person that I consulted with that when I say like badgered me about creating an app, I'm talking about badgered me to where I couldn't even complete my sentences without her saying, this is what needs to happen. This is how we need to scale. And it takes a huge level of willing to take a huge risk to say okay to that. Because you're literally going to have to pay somebody $500,000 in hopes that they do the right thing. And how often do people not do their fucking jobs? Often. You know? Yeah. So I that's why I asked that question about the investment and what the overhead is. It's not always as easy, especially when, if I can say this, financial responsibility is something that my husband talks a lot about. We sometimes feel like we have money that we don't have as people of color because we haven't been taught what real financial responsibility is, and understanding your debt to income ratio and long-term and short-term, and then spending. Everybody wants to be fly and all that kind of stuff, and eating out and all that kind of stuff. So I think it would have been, if I could say what my advice would have been, something I would do as a boss, is to having a real conversation. Because I feel like having real dialogue with people, one, it gives a full understanding and perspective, but it doesn't make people feel like you're stealing and trying to get over. Like you're taking advantage of me. You're trying to keep everything to yourself because you want to live the high life, but we're all working together.
And that's exactly what happened though.
Okay.
So part of the reason you know, with me being a business owner, I definitely understand the overhead, and that's why that's why I was there so long. Like, let's build to this. We can build to equity. We can build to long-term stuff. But when you have somebody that's not even open to understanding, to having conversations because they don't genuinely understand how to do business, they don't genuinely understand what they're doing because they're new money, it's very hard to be taken seriously. So I've always considered his overhead, but what we also have to consider is the fact that this man did not talk to build this brand. All of us talked.
Wait, he's not on the show?
He's on the show.
mediator.
He's like a moderator, mediator. He would say
like a host, like a reunion show host.
So he would say something like, "Yeah, because grown men don't eat ass. What you think about that, Rico?"
True or false?
But he would never. But he would. You remember that scene in White Chicks when the two officers will always give each other crazy ass scenarios, but that one officer never answered the question? That's Ace. He's going to always give you a crazy ass scenario to be a part of, but he's never going to answer the question for himself. Sir, you're not even the reason why you're getting tens of thousands of people to subscribe to your app. I understand this is your business. I understand that you have overhead. I understand all of that. However, if you want to keep your team growing and happy, you feed your team. You don't stun on us.
Absolutely.
And you're constantly stunning on us. Oh, you see these $1,200 shoes. You see, oh, I made $500,000 this weekend. What y'all make? Well, you know what I made, sir, because you pay me. You know exactly what I made.
Now that is awful.
It wasn't $500,000.
I will say that. And on that note, I want to thank you so much, Rico.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Randi, for being willing to sit down and have real conversations and tell your truth.
Absolutely.
You know, because when you are a part of something and you create an audience of people who are invested, they want to know what happened, where did it go wrong, what's happening now, you know, what are the details. And having a conversation in a show about healing and working through relationships and working through issues, and behind the scenes there's mental anguish, financial abuse going on, extortion, and all these accusations. It's kind of like, what's real and what's not, and people want clarity on that. So thank you for being willing to come on site and talk about it and tell your truth and keep it real with the people, because that's what we're all about, truly and honesty. And in closing, I want to say that this conversation was crazy. I mean, I've made sure I heard it with you guys, and not before. But you guys gave us an unfiltered truth about tonight. I appreciate you both for stepping into this space with me. Like I said, your stories are a testament to knowing your worth, okay? And also standing firm in your truth, which I believe wholeheartedly that people should do, and never letting anyone dim your light. You should never have to do that. But before we wrap, I want you guys to both tell everyone where they can keep up with you guys on your new journeys and what's next.
Absolutely. So you guys can keep up with me on my new show, Let's Rant About It. We are touring currently, and Rico will be in damn near every city with us. I think every city. I'm really excited to have Rico on the show. He has brought a very dope dynamic to the conversations. And I also have a new book coming called Sis, I Get It, a guide to healing from friendship breakups, frenemies, and fake friends. It's going to be a safe space for women to genuinely talk and heal. We give so much energy to relationship podcasts and relationship this and relationship that. How are you showing up for yourself, sis? So it's a book and a podcast hosted by myself and Super Scent.
Nice. And you, Rico?
And I would like to say thank you for having us.
Thanks.
You can find me at Rico Hundo. Definitely, we got our tour coming up. I do want to say thank you to Ace for having me meet great people that I can now work alongside with, like Randi and 𝐾𝐨. And look out for my app called Hundo Shows. That'll be out this month, February 2025. And we're going to keep it rolling.
Let's get it.
Drops mic. And to everyone watching, let this be a reminder that loyalty is earned, respect is mutual, and the real ones will always rise above the mess. Stay locked in with Cited for more exclusive interviews, real talk, and no holds bars conversations. Until next time, I'm 𝐼_Ali. Keep it real, keep it raw, and stay cited.